Mystery, loud murders, exploration. Creepy happenings. Horrors that chill to the bones. Welcome to Tales from the Abyss. Today we'll delve into the story of the first American serial killer, a master manipulator whose chilling intellect and deceitful tactics resulted in the suffering and deaths of more than 30 victims. Can you guess who I'm talking about? Imagine a man so cunning, so twisted, that his very name would go down in history as one of the most infamous serial killers of all time. A man who built a house designed for murder, complete with trapdoors, secret rooms, and gas chambers. This is H. Holmes, America's first documented serial killer, and some even suspect he may have been Jack the Ripper himself. But was Holmes really the mastermind behind the Whitechapel murders? As we unravel his chilling story, we'll let you decide. Think you can solve the mystery of H. Holmes? Before we dive in, hit that like button, subscribe, and join us on this dark journey. By the end, we'll be asking, was H. Holmes just America's first serial killer, or something far worse? Stay till the end to find out. Herman Webster Mudgett, a name lost to time, overshadowed by the moniker he would later adopt, H. Holmes. Born in 1861 in Gilmanton, New Hampshire, young Herman's life seemed unremarkable. Yet, even in his youth, there were whispers of a disturbing fascination with death. A morbid curiosity that set him apart from other children. Some say his fascination stemmed from a childhood encounter with a human skeleton. Others point to the strict religious environment imposed by his parents. Whatever the reason, Herman was different. Drawn to the macabre, captivated by the fragility of life and death. As a young boy, Herman displayed a disturbing penchant for cruelty. He tormented animals, dissecting their bodies with chilling detachment. These weren't innocent explorations, but actions of a mind fascinated by pain and suffering. Herman excelled in school, his mind sharp and quick. Yet, this intellect seemed only to fuel his darker impulses. The seeds of evil had been sown, waiting to bloom into their full, horrific potential. Herman's transformation from a peculiar child to a full-fledged monster was gradual. His first forays into crime were small, petty thefts, scams, and cons. He reveled in outsmarting others. As his confidence grew, so did the scale of his schemes. He developed a talent for forgery, using charm and intelligence to weave lies. He drifted from town to town, shedding identities like a snake sheds its skin. His thirst for money and power knew no bounds. He resurfaced in Missouri, adopting the name H. Holmes. It was a new name for a new life. The murder castle rises, a labyrinth of death and deceit. The year was 1886. Chicago, a city on the cusp of greatness, was chosen to host the world's Columbian Exposition. It was a time of boundless optimism, of progress and innovation. But beneath the city's shimmering facade, a darkness was taking root. H. Holmes had arrived. Holmes, ever the opportunist, saw the approaching World's Fair as the perfect opportunity to prey on the unsuspecting. He secured a prime piece of real estate in the Englewood neighborhood, a stone's throw from the planned fairgrounds. There, he would construct his masterpiece of evil. The building was a testament to Holmes's cunning and depravity. He designed it himself, a labyrinth of secret passages, hidden rooms, and soundproof chambers. Staircases led to nowhere, doors opened onto brick walls, and gas jets could be controlled remotely. It was a house built for murder. To the outside world, Holmes presented his creation as a grand hotel, a luxurious accommodation for visitors to the upcoming exposition. He called it the World's Fair Hotel, a name that would later morph into the more sinister and accurate moniker, the Murder Castle. The 1893 World's Fair arrived, a dazzling spectacle of human achievement. Millions flocked to Chicago, eager to witness the marvels on display. But for some, the White City, as it was known, would become their final destination. Holmes, hiding his true nature behind a veneer of charisma and charm, preyed on the endless stream of visitors. He targeted young women, often those traveling alone, luring them to his hotel with promises of affordable lodging and charming companionship. Once inside the murder castle, his victims were trapped. Holmes used a variety of methods to dispatch his victims, each more gruesome than the last. Some were locked in soundproofed rooms and asphyxiated with gas. Others were strapped to his surgical tables, their bodies dissected with cold precision. The disappearances went largely unnoticed at first, lost in the teeming crowds of the World's Fair. But as the body count grew, whispers of something sinister afoot began to circulate. Still, no one suspected the truth, the horrors that unfolded within the walls of Holmes's macabre creation. Among Holmes's many victims, none were more tragic than the Pitezel family. Benjamin Pitezel, a carpenter by trade, was drawn into Holmes's orbit by the promise of easy money. Holmes, ever the master manipulator, recognized in Pitezel a man easily swayed by greed and desperation. Holmes proposed a scheme, a life insurance scam that would make them both rich. Pitezel, blinded by the allure of wealth, agreed. He would fake his own death, allowing Holmes to collect on a substantial life insurance policy. Pitezel's wife, Carrie, a trusting and devout woman, was kept in the dark. She believed her husband was simply away on business, unaware that she and her children were about to be drawn into a web of unimaginable horror. With Benjamin Pitezel out of the picture, having met a gruesome end at the hands of his supposed benefactor, Holmes turned his attention to the rest of the family. Carrie, still oblivious to the truth, entrusted her 3 young children to Holmes's care. It was a decision she would come to regret with every fiber of her being. Holmes took the children, Alice, Nellie, and Howard, on a macabre journey across the United States and Canada, all the while spinning elaborate lies to their unsuspecting mother. He posed as a loving uncle, a concerned family friend, anything to keep Carrie from discovering the truth. One by one, he extinguished the lives of the innocent children. Alice and Nellie were asphyxiated in a large trunk, their small bodies left to rot in the cellar of a rented house. Little Howard met an equally horrific end, his body incinerated in the furnace of another rented home. As the horrors of the World's Fair faded into memory, the net began to close in on H.H. Holmes. His carefully constructed facade crumbled under the weight of his own lies and deceit. In 1894, he was finally apprehended in Boston, not for the string of murders that stained his soul, but for the comparatively minor crime of horse theft. News of Holmes's arrest sent shockwaves through the nation. The authorities, piecing together his movements and uncovering his elaborate cons, began to suspect they had captured a monster far more depraved than a common thief. Under interrogation, Holmes displayed a chilling lack of remorse. He confessed to his crimes in detail, his words sending shivers down the spines of even the most hardened lawmen. He spoke of murder as casually as one might discuss the weather, his words devoid of empathy or regret. The trial of H.H. Holmes was a media sensation. Newspapers across the country devoured every detail, their front pages dominated by tales of his crimes and the chilling confessions that spilled from his lips. The nation was captivated, horrified, and fascinated in equal measure. Despite the mountain of evidence against him, Holmes maintained an air of arrogance throughout the proceedings. He seemed to relish the attention, the spotlight shining on his dark deeds. His ego, it seemed, was as boundless as his capacity for cruelty. The jury's verdict was swift and unanimous: guilty. H.H. Holmes was sentenced to death by hanging. On May 7, 1896, he met his end at the gallows of Moyamensing Prison in Philadelphia. Even in death, however, rumors and legends persisted. Some whispered that he had bribed guards to loosen the hangman's noose, ensuring a quick and painless demise. In the annals of criminal history, H.H. Holmes stands as a chilling example of human depravity. But who was the man behind the mask of madness? What drove him to commit such unspeakable acts? Some believe Holmes was a psychopath, a man incapable of empathy or remorse. Others point to his troubled childhood, the strict religious upbringing and alleged abuse as the root of his darkness. Still others speculate that his medical training desensitized him to violence, turning him into a cold and calculating killer. Whatever the explanation, Holmes's story serves as a stark reminder that darkness can lurk beneath even the most charming facade. It is a reminder that monsters don't always announce themselves with fangs and claws. Sometimes they wear a human face and a disarming smile. More than a century after his execution, the legend of H.H. Holmes continues to fascinate and horrify. His story has become woven into the fabric of American folklore, a cautionary tale whispered from generation to generation. The murder castle, demolished in 1895, has achieved an almost mythical status. It has been the subject of countless books, documentaries, and television shows, each attempting to unravel the mysteries within its walls. Holmes's story continues to resonate because it taps into our deepest fears: the fear of the unknown, the fear of the darkness that lurks beneath the surface of everyday life. He reminds us that even in the midst of progress and enlightenment, evil can flourish, hidden in plain sight.